All right, everybody. I want to thank y'all for tuning in to One Objective tonight. Guys, we got a really good show for you guys lined up. I know it's been, a weekend? I guess it's been a week, Chris, since we've been live. So I appreciate everybody joining us tonight. We're going to have two really great anglers coming on tonight, but also two great stories coming on tonight. So we're going to have Dusty Yakker on. A lot of you guys have probably heard his story on other podcasts and all that. I know Paddle and Fin had him. I know Kayak Bass Nation had him. Several people had him, but we wanted to have him on just to kind of talk about it. Some of you guys that might not listen, to that stuff, to their shows, or didn't catch it then, or what. So if you ain't listened to them, you need to. They got some pretty good shows. But anyways, we're gonna have Dusty Yakker on. Like I said, we're gonna be talking about his experience on Lake Murray. And then we're also going to have Nate Gloria on. He's just won the Bass Nation Kayak Series down there on Lake Fork. So we're going to talk to him and see how he put together a win. But also, we're going to be going over some new things that we're going to be doing on our YouTube. Speaking of YouTube, I want to thank everybody that has subscribed to our YouTube channel. I know I said in the last show we're going to be doing a giveaway. Me and James was trying to get together to do a live show. So we decided that we're going to start doing our YouTube show on Tuesday nights. We're actually still going to be doing this. So we're still going to be doing the Sunday night shows that we have. We try to do every weekend, but we don't make it every weekend. But we're going to be doing that. But also we're just going to be, our Tuesday night series on YouTube is just going to be Tackle Talk Tuesday. We're just going to kind of get on there and talk about, tackle that we got. Some things that we're doing at the moment, some of our some fishing stories, just some more personal stuff, I guess, when it comes to, our in-depth and all that. We try to do it on here, but you kind of get a little segment here and there. I feel like with us doing it there and having the tackle in our hands, we can kind of go in-depth and talk a little bit more about everything on our YouTube channel. So tune in for that. We're going to be starting that this Tuesday is the plan. If you don't see it, don't be upset. We are going to do it. But we're hoping it's this weekend. But also, it's like I said, we're going to be going in depth. We're going to be doing a giveaway to a random subscriber. So if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, make sure you go in there and check that out and get subscribed. And we're going to be picking one of our winners. We were going to do it at 5,000, Chris. Yeah. And we're close to 5,100. So, like I say, I really want to thank everybody for that. It's been great. It's been wonderful to see everybody wanting to actually come in and watch our videos and see what us old country boys want to talk about. Hill bunkers. But Chris, what have you been up to, man? I know we ain't done no fishing. We ain't done none of that. I know you got some wedding prep going on.
Yeah, we've been got some planning stuff going on. We're getting all that set up, put together for October.
Yeah, congratulations to you. I don't know if we said anything about that on the show recently, but everybody congratulate Chris and Brittany. They're gonna be tying the knot
too.
Oh, she in chat, yeah. So congratulations to you guys tying the knot here and coming in October. I just gotta make sure that y'all did schedule that around some big event, so it ain't no big event going on.
October the 2nd.
Just kidding. I ain't gonna miss it, man.
You gotta be in it.
Yeah, you got to, man. But no, I'm excited about that, man. I'm excited for you. But dude, I plan on me and you getting out on the water some more. We didn't get on the water that much last year. The river stayed up. We didn't have a chance to get on the lake so many times. We went and did some catfishing.
Yeah.
And
you managed to catch one. I did.
Yeah. Well, we didn't go that much though. You know what I mean? I think if we'd have kept going, you would have probably got an opportunity to set the hook on one. So. Yeah. But I do have us another spot that I want us to try, Chris. That I noticed during last summer. It was during September when I was fishing the KBF event up there. I found it. Well, I seen a guy carp fishing off of it, and I'm like, man, that looks like a good catfishing spot. So, but anyways, that's we'll talk about that later. That's another day.
Oh yeah.
But anyways, guys, I want to thank all our sponsors that has helped us out this year. We've got some really great sponsors. We picked up another one. We used to have them a while back, but I want to thank Bob's Up the Creek Outfitters for joining us this year. He's going to be doing our in-depth segment. And that's when we need to talk to the anglers and go in depth on a technique that they like to do, how they rig it up. That's where a lot of our questions come in and all that. So we're going to be Bob's Up the Creek Outfitters is sponsoring that segment for us. Also, I want to thank Bonafide, Yak Attack, native, missile baits, power pole, Bino power, RBT custom baits. We're not giving one away tonight because I've had a crazy week, been a crazy busy week, and just never had a chance to reach out to Ron to do a giveaway. So I didn't want to get him at the last minute, be like, hey, we got 2 minutes left. You doing a giveaway? So, but yeah, I just want to thank all sponsors. Also, Falcon rods. We had got some new Falcon rods in, the new Kara's in last week. So on our Tackle Tuesday, we'll be talking a little bit about that, what rods we got in, and what we're going to be using each setup for. So make sure you tune in for that. But Chris, what time do we got?
It is 8:06.
8:06. So we got a little while before we get Dusty Yakker on. One thing
we got a couple quick questions if you want to do those.
What do we got?
Tim Bass Bros on YouTube wants to know, will one objective be coming out with a mounting plate for it? Ascend 128T.
Ascend. We have looked at the Ascends. We have not had our chance to really get our hands on any of them, because the thing is, we get a lot of questions about people wanting to know if we're going to come out and mount for a certain boat. And I always tell them, we'd love to, we want to. We got, like Old Town. We're eyeballing Old Town right now, and got some things in the works. But if you don't have the boat in hand, we get people send us measurements and stuff, but it's really hard to make sure everything works right, and where the mount needs to end, where it hangs off the end of the boat, because you don't want a mount to hang too far off into the boat. For one, it's not great for the stress on the boat, and cracking issues, and you know what I mean. We don't want to make a mount that's going to hurt someone's boat.
Yeah. Or throw you off of it.
Yeah,
too much of a motor on it.
And that's what people don't understand too. Well, some people do, some don't. Like we'll get requests for motor mounts for too small of a boat. Like for I say a motor mount for like a bow mount. Not all boats will handle a bow mount. We have found that out. So there's boats that we don't have bow mounts for. Like the for instance, like the Crescent Ultralight. I just don't think it's capable of holding one. Some people might say you're wrong, but when you go out and test these boats, it just doesn't feel like by the time you put your weight in there and the battery and the motor, and it makes the boat unstable. So there's certain boats that just doesn't handle that. But anyways, we got any more questions there, Chris?
Yeah, Bob wants to know, has anyone tried floating a worm lately?
Floating a worm? No, not yet. I know when me and James went out and did some fishing the other week, I was putting a Cinco on and trying to throw, a slow sinking worm, but I haven't tried anything here recently with, a floating worm or anything like that. What else we got, Chris?
That's it right now.
That's it right now?
Yeah.
Did you see, I don't know if you've seen it or not, do you follow Captain's Quarters on Facebook?
I believe so.
Did you see the bass that Ben Hudson weighed in? He weighed in an 8-pound bass
Is that
today.
the guy that caught it with the missile baits?
Yes, I do believe so.
I've seen that. I believe you shared that picture.
Yeah. I think that was the one. No. That was the other one.
Oh.
This one was actually caught today
at
at
Smith
Smith Mountain.
That one.
Yeah. Ben Hudson caught that. Congratulations to you, Ben, on that. That was an amazing fish. Smith Mountain Lake, man, has been putting out some crazy weights. It was 25 pounds the other day to win an event. And then, Chris, what did you say? It was what was the other club? It was like 2 pounds?
2 pounds.
Yeah. So, you're either on them or you're not kind of deal right now. But I'm going to tell you what, man, it was, I think in that tournament there, it was a couple guys had 19 pounds and didn't get a check. The one when they caught 25 pounds. So they were biting good that day for a lot of people, So Smith Mountain Lake's coming around. A lot of guys say it was off. I don't feel like it was off that bad. I just think things were changing up to the way fishermen like to fish, and they wasn't there like they used to be. And, as lakes, get age and progress and, their cycles these lakes go through, I think that sometimes it's just harder to stumble across them anymore. Things change and move around. Chris, me and you used to be able to, to go drag a U-tail around and catch them pretty good on a Carolina rig, and now I can't catch something on a U-tail up there right now.
They don't want it no more.
Yeah. So, you change up baits and all that, and it's funny. There's certain baits I don't throw anymore that used to slay them, but you get to a point where you don't catch nothing on them anymore, and you kind of change up and find something else. And so, I think these things go through cycles. But before we get Dusty on, I want to tell everybody, too, right now, well, we're going to be stocking these for probably ever. But we got our new 8-inch one objective stickers. These things are pretty sweet, pretty durable.
It's made the same way the little ones are made.
Yeah. If you've ordered a product from us and you get a little one in your packet, it's the same way that those were made. This is just a little bit bigger. We've had people wanting bigger stickers for their kayak, and I really appreciate that. It really means a lot to people want to put our logo on their boat. So, but like I said, you can go check them out, oneobjectivebf.com, and go in there and check that out. What time we got real quick, Chris?
8:12.
8:12.
Well, might as well say 8:12.
Let's go ahead and call Dusty Yakker, and then I'll talk about another topic later.
Okay.
Sorry, I got a bad cough going on today.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, Dusty, we got you, buddy.
Hey, I can hear you. Let's get that camera on.
Yeah, Chris is going to set up everything. It'll take a couple of seconds. And just,
No
Chris,
problem.
just let him know what all he needs, Chris.
All right. Yeah, he's looking good right now. Just got to build the scene up.
All right, Chris is building the scene up, got everything right. But hey, how you doing, man? How things going? You just getting home today?
Yeah, I was out running some errands. Had a little bit of a busy day. It kind of stinks because
Did we just lose
the
it?
forecast is like
I got
I wanted to get some fishing in today, but I got so much stuff to do.
you. I can understand that. Chris, we got everything. Is it signal? Is
Yeah,
it-
it's a little jumpy, but I think it'll be all right.
It'll be
Yeah,
all right?
it's a little jumpy. I hear a really long delay in echo.
I got you. Okay. And it's probably Skype being Skype like it does, you know. But
I
yeah,
think
man.
it's better now.
Yeah, I think it'll take time to let it build up, and we'll get service back here. But yeah, I mean, you know, the fishing season's kicking off, and you know, we always normally this time of the year. I know you've probably told this story 400 times, and I really hate to make you tell it again, but I think it's so important that people hear it because we always push life vest awareness, especially in kayaking and stuff right now. A bass boat, it don't matter what you're in. When you're on the water, you got to be careful this time of year because it can be 60 degrees outside and the water temperature is still in the 40s, 50s. It does not take long for hypothermia to set in, you know. And I had a scare years ago, and if I didn't have my life vest on, I believe it would. I might not have been here talking with you guys right now, you know. So,
Yeah.
and it's the same thing with you, you know. Let's talk a little bit about your story. I mean, like I say, I hate bringing it up, and I hate for you to tell the story so many times, but I just think it's so important.
Yeah. Well, I mean, are we live right now?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that we were live now. But very good. Yeah, you know, I have told the story, but that's not a problem. I definitely agree with you. I think that safety is one of those things that should be drilled over and over and over again. If it sounds like an old story to somebody, that's a good thing because they've heard the message constantly. I mean, that's a big thing in marketing. I mean, repetition, repetition, repetition. So hopefully, it is sinking in people's heads, no pun intended. And it's a wonderful message because simple things will save your life, and I truly think that the PFD was, you know, a huge factor in that. To recap the story, I was in South Carolina on Lake Murray for the KBF trail event, and it was the Friday before the first trail, and I had decided after a couple bad days of practice. I was actually working with some other anglers there, and I had decided to fish in current, and it was a practice day, so everything was going well, and it was near the end of the float, like where my takeout would be, and I have lots of hours on rivers. Rivers that are slow or fast are really no stranger to me. I respect them. And I know what they're capable of. And like I had mentioned earlier, everything was going great. Until near the end of the float, my lure happened to get caught in my pedal drive.
Oh, wow.
And it happened to get caught in my drive at probably the worst possible second or two in the whole float. And in that time, in just maybe 2 or 3 seconds is all it took for me not to be able to reverse or go forward the way I wanted to. And instead, my little pedal thrusts, because I couldn't really pedal much because the rod was tight with the lure, actually pushed me into what's called a strainer. And a strainer on a river is just a nickname. for a giant laydown that strains all the water, the debris, and everything through it. And they're deadly on rivers. This is how many people drown. This is how many people become entangled up and pinned up in it. So when I went into it, not only did I go into it with force, but of course there's current pushing me. So I slammed into it and broadsided, and I was in the water before I even knew what happened. And you go in the water, and the current, you don't bob up where you went in. The current sort of takes you, pushes you for a few feet, and unfortunately, that was right into that nasty laydown. So, I went in, and I really didn't even feel cold at first at all. But the problem is that I couldn't get up. What was happening was my torso and like my hoodie and my body was like sitting there wedged, like literally in the middle of the laydown. And your instinct when you go in to swim is to try to control yourself, to try to direct, to figure out your direction. But the current was pushing, and it was sort of forcing my body under, like my chest and my pelvis and my legs. It was sort of like forcing it under, but I can feel the like logs and sticks under there. But I really couldn't move because there was something caught on my hoodie.
Wow.
So it was really scary, and I still have no idea how long this took place. I have no idea how long it was. It could have, I mean, it could have been a couple seconds. It could have been more like, maybe 20 seconds or 30 seconds, like a half a minute. But I remember sitting there and thinking, this is no good. This is really no good. And I was running out of energy, and my mouth was above water, but like occasionally, like the trickles and like the gurgling would like come up a little bit. I mean, I could breathe fine. I mean, I was thinking, and I was all right. I wasn't getting sucked under. I was just kind of sitting there. Maybe even the snag on my hoodie helped from going under. I'm not quite sure, but like my chest was puffed up and my head was cocked back, and I just kind of sat there for a while. And looking back on it, it was awful. It was a dreadful experience. But a lot of crazy stuff kind of goes through your mind in those seconds. But eventually, I was miraculously able to reach behind me, and whatever it was the first thing that I touched or felt, I grabbed, and it was a log, and it broke. I pulled it back towards me, and it broke, and somehow that spun me out and freed me up. So the current turned me around, but this time I was a little higher, and then I was right by the log, and now the current's behind me at my back, pushing me forward towards the log, the strainer.
Yeah.
Now, at that point, I was able to like use it to push myself up and then over, and then try to get to the bank. And getting to the bank was really difficult because, your clothes get full of water, your boots fill with water, and they were water boots too. They were light, and it's just unbelievable how much energy that you have to expend. Like, maybe it was hard for me to recall my physical movements in that position, but I must have really been out of energy because just getting to the bank that was like maybe 20 or 30 feet away was like trouble. And really the reason I got there really good was because of the PFD. It was keeping me like above, and my strokes like this were, it didn't, I mean, if I was in the middle of a lake or something like that, or I got it detached from my kayak, man, boy, what people say is very true. That the weight of your clothing, that in of itself, I mean, is really bad. So without a PFD, I mean, I don't really think you have long. Now combine that with the water temperature, I mean, and this is lethal.
Yeah.
This water temperature was 47 to 48 degrees, and the air temps were 50 to 51 degrees. So those are hypothermic conditions, big time. If you don't get out of the water, or if you're in a bad situation, you can definitely have hypothermic symptoms real quick. So luckily I was in a river. It was narrow. I got out of the trouble, and the shore was close. Fortunately for me, I was familiar with the run by looking at it on Google Earth so much that I knew a bridge was coming up. I just didn't know how far. And also in my PFD pocket was my phone, and my phone had a waterproof case on it. I know I was submerged for a while. I know the phones are water resistant these days, but I really didn't think that it would work. I was just so glad that it was in my pocket. Sometimes I don't leave it in my pocket. Sometimes I leave it on the, in the kayak in a little case or whatever on the floor, and, I had it. So I was able to make some phone calls. I was able to assess myself. I wasn't injured. I might have had a little shock or a little adrenaline going. I made some calls to some family members, and I made a call to the rescue, to 911, and they were able to pinpoint my location because I was able to send them a GPS pin. And then, it was it was a really bad walk. It was a couple miles, and it was through real thick stuff. But at that point, I knew that I was going to be fine. And then the realization that I just probably lost my everything that I own, pretty much, like my premium fishing gear, like like what I was. I mean, just as an angler, I mean, it's like it's crazy to lose that centralized tackle because I was foolishly had my kayak loaded with a lot of gear, and I lost it as a result of the turn. So
Yeah,
it was pretty crazy experience.
and I'm really sorry that you had to go through that. But it's like you say too, it's it's an eye opener. You know what I mean? Like it shows you that it no matter how much experience you have, it can happen in a second. And like I say, your story possibly could help a lot of people. And to realize that, hey, this guy's experienced and still flipped it and still about it could have, like I say, it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's funny that you say that. I mean, I'm in total agreement of what you say, but it's interesting to observe that a common theme from the people that have come to tell ask me my story, or even private messages and in response and comment sections and things like that. A theme seems to be like thank you for telling your story. We're kind of surprised that you tell your story, almost like there might be some embarrassment for other people, or people don't feel comfortable sharing a traumatic experience or something. I mean, I mean, it's for a great cause, but I mean, for me personally, it's very therapeutic and very, it's very helpful for me to, kind of express how I feel, what I went through. I mean, it kind of helps me digest the experience. And it definitely was an eye opener. The funny thing is that my life has seen a lot of change over the last couple of years. So I've been on some really good paths, with trying to implement healthy changes and fix a few things. And I was already doing these things, and having some good success with it. So this was like, it's funny now because it's been a couple weeks and I've had time to assess it, think about it, digest it, and I think it might be I mean, as funny as it sounds, just a little blessing in disguise. It made, it's kind of been a catalyst to the things I already wanted to do, a catalyst to the path that I was kind of already on. And in a way, it does really make you appreciate a lot of things, man.
Yeah.
Being alive, of course, is one of them, but it really makes you appreciate a lot of the small things.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to turn a negative into a positive. There's been a lot of outpouring of support. There's just been some unreal generosity and kindness from complete strangers. Something I'd like to talk about, actually.
Yeah.
Perhaps a little bit later in the segment. Gosh, I lost my train of thought.
No, you're fine.
But yeah, I'm trying to turn a positive into a negative. So I'm going to rebuild my tackle from scratch. Rebuilding my gear is going to give me the chance to be really consistent with my selection of reels and rods, because in the past it's sort of been a hodgepodge of this, and that. So, I'm just kind of looking at it positively and just kind of having a good attitude with the rebuild.
Yeah. And for like, we'll get into the tackle in a second because it was something I want to bring up about that. But we got a good friend of ours that's on the fire department, and there was a kayaker that just bought a kayak. I'm going to say, I don't know, it was a couple weeks ago, and went to test it out right at the boat ramp, didn't have a life vest on, flipped it over, drowned, and they ended up finding him not far from right where he flipped, and it was like, man, it's crazy because you think that fighting and all that and getting pushed down the water or whatever, he wouldn't have been right there where he was at. I'm glad they found him, especially for the family's, sake. It sucks either way how it goes, but he was saying the reason why people drown so much at this time of the year is, for one, they don't, like say, it don't matter how many clothes you got on when you hit that cold water, but their initial instinct is to gasp, and they suck in so much water, and they say sometimes people drown instantly when it happens.
Because, the panic.
Yeah, and I mean, it don't take, and once you fill your lungs up with water, you sink like a rock. So,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
that's
It's cliche because you hear this message so often about I mean, you think you're a strong swimmer. Oh, I mean, I'll get in. Yeah, it might be cold, but I'll be able to get to shore or whatnot. I mean, my goodness, that kind of water shocks your muscles. I mean,
yeah.
it's like you said, it's even hard to breathe, let alone exert physical energy in the manner that you're used to exerting it in it. It does not work, especially with clothing and the trauma of the situation. Um, and really, like you mentioned, somebody probably new to kayaking or maybe their first kayak or their first time out, you know, a great thing is that our industry and our sport is exploding. I mean, COVID is obviously a very unfortunate reality in our lives, but one silver lining is that it's really brought people to the outdoor market. It's brought
Mm-hmm.
people to take a close look at paddle sports. I mean, our industry in terms of like profitability, I mean, it's exploding. I mean, people can't even get kayaks. But the problem there is that people are so eager to get out. They're buying their first kayak. um, I know I personally know the people that I deal with preach safety and promote safety, and I know many people do, but not everyone does. And there are people that will sell kayaks and kind of go through the process and not really make the safety aspect of it important.
Yeah.
And I mean, even myself included. I mean, I will readily admit when I first started getting into kayaking, and I was kayaking out of like a box store kayak, like a small sit-in cheaper one, the life jacket was there so that I wouldn't get fined. The life jacket was there so that the DNR knew I was legal. It wasn't, and I was young and naive, and it wasn't in
Mm-hmm.
my head that, dude, this thing is going to really save your life. Now, not to make excuses, I wasn't going out in March and April, in these icy waters. I wasn't doing crazy things. It was more like warmer water, forest preserved lakes and stuff like that. But that's not the point. The point is that you have to have it on. You have to have it on always, and it has nothing to do with rules and regulations. It has everything to do with your safety, with a personal choice that you make so that you can go home to your loved ones, so that the thing that you love isn't the cause of your death.
Yep.
And then you take grip and grins and selfies, and we add these collections to the whole mosaic of social media, and everyone's got their life vest on. So that message gets pounded and repeated so that people buy a kayak and they're like, yeah, I obviously one of the things I need, is a life jacket. I need that gear, and people become comfortable with that, and it becomes routine.
Yeah. And life vests have came a long ways. There's so many different options
Mm-hmm.
for you. A lot of people say, "Well, it's too hot. It's too hot during the summer, or it's too uncomfortable." I'm gonna tell you what. NRS Onyx is one that's got a really nice kayak life vest out now. I seen it Bob's Up the Creek Outfitters the other day. Mustang has their inflatables. You got to be careful with your inflatables because some of them are not as good as others. And I always tell
Well,
people that.
yeah, that's been a topic of debate. I have 0 minutes of experience with the inflatable variety. I'm sure there's, I mean, it's from what I hear, it's a great product, and I'm sure there's many reliable and reputable brands out there. I personally, it's hard for me. I mean, first off, I'm not like a huge maintenance guy. I mean, I'll clean my reels and like kind of take care of my equipment, but like it would be totally me to have that, to have that thing in my basement for 2 or 3 years with a CO2 cartridge perhaps not replaced, or
Yep.
lacking the maintenance. So for me, the foam style Coast Guard approved, life jackets are fine, and I've become so accustomed to wearing them
Yeah.
that it doesn't even feel right when my life vest isn't on.
Yep.
It's kind of like that feeling over my chest. I have full mobility. There's no restriction. It's like an extension of the body. So
That's
I
right.
spend so much time on the water.
And I got a Mustang life vest, and a lot of times during the summer I was wearing them at nighttime fishing because it had the nice reflector stuff on it, and all that. Now the only problem, like you're relying on something mechanical to save your life, and we all know things fail. I mean, if you don't maintain it right or something goes wrong, it could fail, and it ain't gonna save your life. But I'd much rather see somebody at least attempt to wear something like that. And I'm like you too, though. I wear the NRS, and it is comfortable. I don't have no issues with mobility, and it's comfortable sitting in a chair. I mean, And
Yeah, I mean, yeah, a lot of them have back support or the right support, and it's kind of like it's kind of a nice thing. And another thing is my life vest often adds that layer of warmth.
yeah,
Like you layer up the right way, and then you snap your PFD on your chest. Is all warm. And in addition, this is huge too. PFDs with pockets on them.
yeah,
Because of the pocket, I had my phone. Let's say I was 7 miles up the river in a more remote, or anywhere that was just ridiculously remote. If your phone's gone and you're separated from your kayak, what good is any of the safety equipment that you had in the hatch or that you had in your dry bag or whatever? In my hatch, there was a little film. I mean, the one I flipped was a little film canister with like lint and like debris and like a lighter, like stuff for starting a fire. I had socks. I had a little like a thin like sweats and a hoodie. I had like a change of clothes in there that I usually keep in that situation, just in case I do get wet.
yeah,
But in this case, I got separated. I went in, and when I popped up, I didn't even care where my gear was. That's not even what I was thinking about because I was fighting for my life. But then, you realize what happened, and you think about it, and you say, what good is any of that stuff? So I was talking to Gene Jensen actually at the awards ceremony, and he was saying that he's had some scary experiences too. And one thing that he keeps in the breast pocket of his PFD is an emergency blanket, like the NASA kind, like the foily kind, the emergency warmth
oh yeah,
blanket that folds like a deck of cards. It like folds like this, but when you open it up, it like expands into something that could potentially save your life. So we were talking about having some sort of thing on your person or on your body. Just sort of be prepared or just sort of have some plan, and these are important when your time comes. And I say when your time comes because as much as I never want people to experience a bad situation on the water, but it just seems like when you do this long enough and you're on the tournament grinder, you find yourself on the water for a substantial amount of time per year. I mean, the likelihood of a tip or a tilt or going in the water, I mean, it's just there.
yeah.
So to have some sort of plan or to have some level of preparation is exactly the kind of thing that'll save your life.
Exactly right. And as tournament anglers, we always prepare for the worst. So, like, let's say if you use a trolling motor, you always try to keep a spare prop, or you try to keep a spare shear pin, or whatever, or we try to keep, when it comes to tackle itself, you try to keep, if you got a crankbait you like to throw, you try to keep 3 or 4 just in case you lose one, break one, or whatever. We're always preparing for stuff like that, but yet I think that is something that is lacked, is preparing for the what if something happens, and
yeah, I think across the spectrum of humanity, that's typically the case. Sometimes we don't
yeah,
check the batteries in our smoke detectors, or we take safety precautions for major like life events. We're kind of not prepared sometimes until it happens, and then we learn our lesson, and then we kind of get more prepared. That's sort of humanity in general, but yeah, particularly with kayaks, some of the best fishing in the world is early and late in the season. But you're dealing with deadly conditions when it comes to low water temps. I mean,
yeah,
it's the water temperatures that will shock you, kill you, and drain you of your muscles and drain you of your ability to think straight very quickly.
yeah,
So you really have to appreciate that. Maybe learn about that. There's a good easy kind of way to assess perhaps the conditions of the day and whether or not hypothermia might be likely, and that's of course the 120 rule.
yep. That's what I was gonna bring
The
up.
120, yeah, the 120 rule is if the water temp or air temp in whatever capacity don't add up to pass 120, you're in that zone. So you kind of can't let an unseasonably warm day fool you. There could be cold water, and sometimes the water doesn't appear that cold, but it's kind of cold in the air, and those things combine, and that's no good.
Yeah,
Also, you said we kind of prepare for the worst as kayakers, and we do, but sometimes that backfires. And that was my situation. My kayak was fully loaded, and I see so many people say, when they're posting non-safety related topics, I hear a lot of people say, how many rods do you carry? What's your tackle setup for your tourney rig? And I mean, myself included, despite not even having a trolling motor or anything like that. I mean, it's stuffed to the gills. I lost like 7 or 8 premium combos, 4, 5, 600 each,
yeah,
just gone. I had 2 reels I took out of my reel stash in the car, backups, and I put them in the front hatch, gone. I had just organized everything, and instead of like kind of divvying it in half and saying, okay, this is a reasonable amount, it all went in like, I put all my great chatterbaits stuffed a Plano Edge box full, chocked full of Mega Bass Visions, a couple jerkbait boxes, like JDM premium terminal tackle, just a ton of stuff, and I was overloaded. It doesn't affect the kayak. It's not like weighting me down. The kayak's fine, but you're overloaded.
Yeah.
And this kind of thing is just no good. The jig got caught in the pedal drive, probably because I had 6 rods on my deck. The thing's dang. I mean, it was just, you're kind of asking for that. So, sometimes less is more, man. Think about a more streamlined approach to your tackle. Think about more organization on your deck. Think about your space movements, and I really think less is more. So think
Exactly.
just kind of touching on that aspect.
Now that's what one topic I want to get on. You was talking about losing rods and reels and tackle, and and some people don't understand. Like rods and reels to me are a lot. I mean, granted they're expensive, and you hate to lose any of them, but for me that is so much easier to replace
Yeah.
than it is when it comes to, like you say, some JDM baits. You got all these I mean, there's baits that I throw too, a lot of anglers throw that they don't make no more. So when you lose stuff like that, that's what kills me.
I mean, just talking about it right now, there's like a knot in my belly, and I don't think it's a feeling I'll ever fully recover from, like the emptiness of it. But like I said, some people have been really great. There's some packages arriving at my house that are just beyond generous. Some of the sponsors are helping me out. You're right, rods and reels. I got a nice a guy gave me a great price on some of his rods that he used. So I actually have some I'm kind of set up a little bit. I'm waiting for some reels to come in. But you're right, that's what's easy. And one thing I haven't started on is even tackle. I went fishing for the first time in Illinois after the incident with ice out, after a couple days after ice out, and it was funny because it was forcing me to do new things. I was using braid to fluoro apps like I really haven't before. I'm a straight fluoro guy in the bait caster usually, so I was doing braid to fluoro, swim jig apps. I used my drop shot rod to do a braid to fluoro 8-pound with the +1, really get it down there deep and wing it out there. And I was doing some interesting things because I was forced to, so it was kind of cool that way. But man, yeah, the lures. If I wanted to fish a major tournament right now, I was supposed to go to Broken Bow, then down to Fork. I mean, I couldn't. I mean, I probably could have technically, but I mean, I literally don't have like some simple tackle.
Yeah.
So I got to rebuild that, and it's a little tough, and some of the things like you said are irreplaceable.
Yeah, exactly. And, let's talk a little bit about the kayak community, because you're talking about people, sending you gifts and sending you tackle. And when that event happened, I mean, you had well, first off, let's talk about that. How did you get your kayak? I mean, when was it when you get that?
This is where some of the kindness of strangers comes in, and I really kind of maybe went off on a tangent, but or this is the proper place to mention him. A gentleman by the name of Chad Walden. What had happened is when I got to the bank, and I after I was done doing my deal there, I my first text was to Cody Milton, and he knew where I was in the river because we had discussed this, and that's another thing. No matter how much experience I have in the rivers, you just don't go on them alone. Mm-hmm. You definitely need to let someone know where you are, or like some general time frame, or like here's kind of where I plan to launch, and here's my takeout, or however that's going to work. You should definitely let somebody know your general vicinity, and I did. So when I texted him, he was with Christine Fisher, and they started making some really wonderful phone calls on my behalf, getting the word out that I had lost my kayak, and if there was any potential rescue boats in the area or somebody that was willing to help me out in that way. Queen City Kayaks, Vinny Ferrari and Joey Randall were making a lot of calls on my behalf, and it was, I'm sort of embarrassed not to flip or have that kind of thing happen to me. I mean, it's probably going to happen if you're really grinding in your life, some experience like that. But it's embarrassing to have people call, and for you to kind of swallow your pride and open yourself up for assistance. But really, there are just great great people on this earth, and
Yeah.
it's really nice when we get to talk about it and mention them. Man, they're really the glue that hold us together. So they made some phone calls, and next thing I know, I'm at the hotel. Like I took a shower, I was sort of relaxing, and this guy Chad Walden calls me, and he had arranged with another gentleman by the name of Chad. That guy's name was Chad Booth. He owned a pontoon that happened to be at a location not terribly far from where I flipped. So I talked to him, and he said, meet me at this spot. It's no big deal. I got access to this pontoon. We'll head upriver and see if we can find anything.
Mhm.
And I was like, thank you, thank you, thank you. Of course. So we met him early in the morning. This is just, I don't even know the guy. It's Saturday, a weekend. It's 35 degrees in the morning. It's like 6 a.m. He's got a family, so he comes and meets me, and we hop in the pontoon, and we go upriver, and sure enough, about 3 miles up, we see what looks like my kayak, and it was my kayak, and it was hanging by a thread, man. Literally, it was upside down, filling with water, bobbing with its ass end up out of the water on a log, and it looked like it was kind of being forced under by the current. It was like kind of bobbing on a log. So the miracle of miracle is that we got to it. We're able to turn it up while the engine was sort of in neutral in this current in a pontoon, which isn't maneuverable. And we eventually got it upside down, but it was full of water. So I was holding on to the H-rail with dear life, and there just happened to be a tiny little cut that wasn't far away that he could reverse into. And somehow we were able to get that kayak in the cut and then sit in the cut with no current. And then that's when we got the water out and got the kayak up. And on the way there, saw what looked to be some of my gear floating in trees and stuff, and it was. So my drive was still in the kayak, thank God. My Garmin unit was still attached and still running, was still powered on. The Dakota lithium box was floating in the hatch, connected, powering the graph, still lit and on. And my GoPro was on the front bow. It wasn't on, but it was still there. When we pulled the kayak over, there was 2 rods in the back of the H crate, like all bent over and like hooked on the logs. I didn't even care if we broke them. Getting up, they snapped up. So I got my St. Croix Legend glass. I got a drop shot. And then in the dang crate were my 2 vision boxes, like just sitting there, chock full of my visions and waterproof boxes. And I was like so happy. I just wanted to hug the guy. And then we sort of mothershipped the kayak on the front of the pontoon, and then he relaunched me, but I lost my seat because my seat, I normally always hook my seat with that little connector in the back that prevents you from losing it if you flip. I almost always do that, and for some reason I didn't do it that morning. I lost my seat, so here I am on the kayak. And if you've been in a Hobie with no seat and you're sitting there, I mean, you can't really pedal. So I'm holding the H-rails and my feet are up there trying to pedal. And I'm trying in the current, in the same situation that flipped me, I'm trying to go into these strainers looking for my gear.
Yeah.
So I got this net, and I found my square bill box. I found a Ziploc bag with all my Megabass swim baits, spark shads and all that stuff. I found, what else did I find? Some miscellaneous plastics with some cool craw trailers. So it wasn't like the fact that I was able to recover my kayak and the drive and the Garmin was like bingo. And then a couple tackle boxes. So it wasn't a purely devastating thing. And we did all that. And it really doesn't end there, man. We got back to the launch, and he brought his Outback. He's got an Outback, and he's like, bro, he's like, it's 9 o'clock. You can still launch, and you can still fish. He had brought me, actually, we talked about it before. He's like, I'm going to bring you some stuff just in case you want to go. And I mean, I didn't really think about it then, but he's like, I could get you like 2 or 3 rods and some baits. What do you need? I'm like, well, okay, well, bring them, just tie on a jig, spinner bait, and chatterbait. And he was so polite. He's like what he's like send me a picture of the spinnerbait. He's like, what blade combo do you want? And I started getting all technical,
Yeah.
And it was really cool. So anyways, So at 9:15, I'm like, "Hun, what do you think?" I was talking to my wife, and she's like, "Hell yeah, babe, just go for it. You got to get over this. I trust you. Blah blah blah." And Chad's like, "Dude, go get it, crush it." He's like, "I'm like, yeah, maybe I'll catch a fish." He's like, "Dude, go get a limit." So I was feeling pretty good. So we launched. It was like 9:45. I took the run down the river. I slammed out a limit, fishing behind some people. In fact, I lost a couple big fish, but I was able to get a limit. I was able to do well in the tournament. I cut a check in the tournament actually. Um, and it was a really feel good thing. It was a really good opportunity for me to sort of bite the dog that bit me. But the reality is that looking back, I think that I was probably not in my right mind. I was probably more like in shock or an adrenaline because, that might not have been the smartest thing to do. But I'm glad I did it, and I'm very grateful for the people that assisted me in that situation because they made a bad situation and made it much better. So
Yeah.
the help of strangers and the help of people in our community has been wonderful. Not to mention the people that have sent me gifts. I mean, I don't want to embarrass them. I didn't ask them permission if I could kind of like tell their names on a public broadcast, but I'll make a post about it, and definitely people have reached out, and people that I don't even know, absolute strangers, sending extremely generous packages in the mail. So,
I guess to show
and for
you,
anybody
man.
that's listening and they know who they are, I mean, from the bottom of my heart, God bless you, and thank you so much.
Well, I'm gonna tell you what. When that happened, man, it could have easily been you could have packed up and just headed home. And like I say, you had the community help with getting somebody out there to help you get your kayak.
Yep.
And then that guy helping you with tackle and all that, and you still able to keep your mind right and go out there and catch you enough fish to get you a check, and that's something about this industry, man, is nobody had to give you anything, I mean, they could have said, you know what, dude, I'm sorry, but I'm competing for money too. And that's the great thing about
absolutely. Like,
yeah.
I love you. We're sorry. I feel bad, but we're competing. I mean, that's a distinct reality too. Absolutely. But people have good hearts.
Yeah.
Even in our day and age where everybody's pitted against each other and our country's divided and really small petty things encourage difference. I mean, it's kind of absurd that way.
Yeah.
Even in the midst of all that, I mean, people do have other true colors as well, and some of those colors are love and kindness and compassion and empathy. I mean, it's really neat. And it's a special thing when people that share a passion. This is the result. So it's kind of it's kind of like a wonderful feature, like a great perk or a bonus for chasing your dreams, for following your passions, for not sitting on the couch and saying, "Boy, I kind of want to do this one day." You get out in the world. You make things happen. You meet people and you work hard in spaces and you cultivate people can empathize, people can be compassionate. So when I text my buddies and they understand what happened, I mean, of course all these kind of things flood out. So it was really nice to observe that humanity, man. It really made me feel good about the situation in general.
Now, something I've learned, I've been fishing for, like probably you have, and a lot of us that listen for many years. And, from my dad bringing me up doing it to, getting into the bass boat side of things and then working my way into kayak. And something I've learned on both sides is that nobody wants to see you do bad. You know what I mean? Like they want to they compete against you. They want to take your money if they can. But in a nutshell, though, they don't want to see you do bad. Everybody still wants to see everybody out there doing well. They're still out there just to beat the fish, really not. You know what I mean? Like it's like I say, you go out to a certain tournament, you're like, man, I really want to beat that guy. He's the best. I want to beat that guy, and we all are like that. We're all competitive. We all are driven like that. But like say, when it all comes down to it, you want to see if someone's struggling, you want to help them. You don't want to see nobody struggling. I'm learning that more into, like, my son's getting into karting, racing go-karts, and I'm seeing it on that too, where people want to help, and I just think it's great in the fishing industry. Like you say, after the weigh-in, you can come in, everybody shakes hands, they congratulate one another. People are generally happy for one another when someone wins. You know, it's just it's an unbelievable feeling. Not everybody gets the opportunity to do it, so when you do get it, everybody's congratulating. It's so much support within the community, and like I say, just for them to do what they did for you is amazing, and it shows a lot of there's still a lot of good in this world, no matter what you see and read and all that. You know, it's
Totally.
And this is stuff that ain't gonna make the news. This ain't gonna make CNN and all that. You know what I mean? Like,
of course not.
And you know, and it's so many more stories out there like that.
It doesn't have to make CNN. It doesn't have to be a viral thing. If it helps a couple people, it's great. And it has. People have reached out to me.
Yeah.
Just for it to be another, just another aspect of that message, of that constant bombarding of a message. I mean, it might get annoying to people. People might be triggered by it. So be it. Come what may. Just make sure you have that dang thing on when you get on the water. You know?
Exactly right. And it is amazing to me. Like, man, when we do this, normally start it in March, and we'll run it for like a month long straight of wearing your life vest. And then we'll still share stuff through the year. But like I say, during the cold months is when we really are pushing it. But it is amazing to me how angry people get towards us when we do it. Like we'll do a post and they'll write out this long message, and I'm like, dude, just keep scrolling. If you're that upset about it, don't worry about it.
That is it's an interesting phenomenon how that's a trigger in people, and it might have to do with authority issues, people telling them that they have to do something regardless of what it actually is. I mean, this upsets a lot of people. I mean, we see that today in our politics, but even the suggestion that you're doing something wrong, or you have to do this in when you want to go do something that you really like. I mean, that unfortunately, people are apprehensive about that, and they're imbued with their own sense of rights and feelings. Don't tell me to do this, and unfortunately that's going to lead to some tragedy. We read about it every single year, especially I'm from Chicago, so we have deadly conditions, that are pretty common early and late in the year. And there's a particular lake that I go to called Lake Geneva in Wisconsin, and it just seems like once a year you hear about that thing, when ice out's over, or you just kind of read. We read articles about it every single year with kayakers and no PFDs.
Yeah, and it's a growing thing, and like I say, with the kayak sales like they are, like you talked about earlier, the outdoor industry is growing and growing because people are wanting to get out and do more things because they couldn't go and do. It's an ongoing thing, man, and you just got to do your best to spread the word. And like I say, your story's great. Your story's, I mean, it sucks how it went down. You know what I mean? Like, I hate to say, man, it's great, but it's inspirational though. Like it's, we might not be having this story if you didn't have it on, so it's
and you know what, I do have to acknowledge and realize that it is probably good for people to hear, because I mean, nobody knows really who I am except like maybe some hardcore tournament anglers, but I have been grinding out on this scene for 3 or 4 years, and prior to that I was in a kayak on lakes and rivers. Granted it was a cheaper kayak, but I was on one for the previous maybe 6 or 7 years. So I mean, I've been doing it for a while, so it's not like I just went out and bought a Hobie and then I flipped it, something like on my first month out. I do have some experience. There's, a lot of confidence that I have on that. So I guess for it to happen to me, it should be a wake up call, and should, hopefully it raises the eyebrows of those that, are in my situation, that, at a moment's notice it can happen to others. So maybe they should think about those little things at the launch ramp, or think about reassessing their organization, or even, maybe even hopefully inspiring people to tell, their children before they go out to the, to a tournament, that they love them, or they encourage dialogues with family members that they might not normally, or fix broken relationships here, there, say I'm sorry, or recognize, just sort of have an appreciation for their life and what they're doing, and kind of an appreciation that it could be taken away in a heartbeat doing the thing that you love. So hopefully there's all types of repercussions that are positive.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, kind of, we'll leave the show on a positive note. Let's talk about. Well, I guess it is positive, but another good story coming up. Let's talk a little bit about. I was going through Catch, and I see they're doing like their outdoor series, their getting out and doing some filming and all that. And we know that you're on with Catch. And let's talk a little bit about. I seen there was one there with you and sitting by the campfire there, kind of deal, talking. And let's talk a little bit about that series and what y'all's, what is y'all's future plans with this?
Yeah, I really appreciate that opportunity. Thank you so much. It's something that I would like to get out to the general public more aggressively. Catch Products and Catch Outdoors are two branches on the same tree. Catch Products, of course, is our manufacturing division. It's where we make our awesome bump boards. Catch Outdoors is our media division, where we offer outdoor videography, outdoor photography, and consultation on a whole different type of things that we'll be launching really soon with an awesome new website. But the videos that we're putting out now is our take on our exploration across the country. We basically film our adventures. We have a lot of cool members on our pro team, so we go out to the tournaments. We set up outings with our pro team members like Cody Milton and Dwayne Beatty. There's a lot with me because I am the creative director and technically the host of Catch Outdoors. So what we'd like to do is bring what we're envisioning is 8 to 10 episodes this year that we'll edit and release officially on Catch Outdoors. But what we'd really like to do with that platform is to just showcase the beauty of the outdoors, showcase our relationship with the outdoors and how we interact with it, and try to elevate it, a little more above the typical fishing show with narration and, different takes on things and human interest stories and perhaps things that occur, off the water. And, mainly it's just a wonderful creative outlet and opportunity for us. And we're really, just running with it. And it's really coming together with the teams that we're working with. I work with some really talented people, and we're getting some really positive feedback on the quality of the videos that were released. So we have 2 episodes out right now. The first one is called To Catch a King, and the one that we just released the other day on Facebook through the Catch Outdoors site is called The Upper Hand, which talks a lot about my philosophy on life and some of the ways that I feel, to the backdrop of the Upper Peninsula in Michigan catching giant river smallmouths. So we're really happy with that.
Yeah, y'all have done really well. I love the editing. Yeah, y'all do a really good job at telling the story. You know what I mean, and building the story, and it kind of keeps you involved. And wanting to stay with it and watch it. And y'all do a really good job with that. And looking forward to seeing what y'all do through the year. And seeing this thing grow. I think y'all got a lot of great potential there.
Yeah, it's great in any creative process. I mean, I'm a musician, so I've worked with other musicians. In any creative process, it's great to have people that you sort of naturally have a workflow with. So we're sort of just getting that established, and I'm really happy with the things that we've done already. So I'm just really excited for what the future holds. So thank you very much for that, and I would really encourage people. I mean, not simply to plug it, but I really encourage people to watch these episodes. It's not simply watching people hold a fish up. There's more to it. We try to apply some very meaningful messages in there for people to relate to and appreciate. So I highly recommend that you view these episodes on a big screen. If you can cast to your television through an app or through Apple or through a smart television, or if you could connect your laptop with an HDMI cable to your television and watch it that way. That's how we render it. That's how we sort of design it. I know it looks great on a screen in an iPhone, but when I watch it on my screen and when other people do, it's really an immersive experience. So I highly recommend people watch it that way.
That's awesome, man. Well, Dusty, man, I really appreciate you taking the time, man, to come on with us. And I know y'all are exhausted. Y'all coming off tournament trails, and it's a busy time of the year for everyone, So I really appreciate you taking the time and telling your story. And man, I look forward to following you through the year and seeing what more y'all do with Catch and following those stories. And I am going to put it on the big screen TV now and see it because I've been watching it on the phone.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, if you want to watch those episodes, you can find them at Catch Outdoors on Facebook right now. We do have a YouTube site. It's kind of under construction right now. So actually at the end of this week, we'll be launching those on YouTube so people have, more universal access to that. But right now, if you want to watch it, go on Catch Outdoors. And we really encourage you to comment. to give the feedback of how you feel, critique or not. Lay into us. Let us know what you're feeling, because we're sort of running wild with our own creative juices, but we really want to see what people think about it. So please don't be shy to comment, and we thank you for that.
Well, man, I really appreciate it, buddy. You have a good night, and look forward to talking to you maybe later this year and talking more about it, and seeing how far you guys have come this year.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on, and everybody have a wonderful evening.
All right, you too, buddy. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye. All right, that was good. That was a great interview. That's the first time I've had the opportunity to talk with him, and that was a great experience. He's great at telling a story. You know what I mean? Like he's very passionate about what he's talking about, and I really like that. And it makes for keeping you kind of involved with listening and because you don't know what he's gonna say next. You know what I mean when it comes to his story and all that. So, like I say, if you get a chance, go watch the Catch Outdoors series they're doing right now. They're really good. They do a really good job in editing those, and like I say, I think that is going to be an awesome series, especially get it up on YouTube, and I think it's going to do well. So, but Chris, do we have any questions coming in? What's everybody saying right now?
Just taking it all in.
Just taking it in, chit-chatting, whatnot.
Yeah.
Is there anything on there people are kind of talking about that maybe we need to discuss before we get our next guest on, or is it just kind of?
No, just everybody's commenting on the experience. It was a wild experience, and then glad to hear that good people stepped up to help him out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Things of that nature.
Yeah, absolutely. The next guest we're going to have on is Nate Gloria. We're going to get him on here just shortly. We're going to be doing our in-depth segment with him. Make sure, guys, if you got some questions, you want to know techniques, feel free to ask. If you're on YouTube or you're on Facebook, however you're following us, feel free to ask. Also, if you don't mind, I wanted to say this before we had Dusty on, is, if you get a chance, please share this show tonight while we're live or whatever, so we can get some people in here and asking some questions. Also, I talked earlier, if you're just now tuning in, we're going to be doing a YouTube live show on Tuesdays as well, which is going to be like our Tuesday tackle talk. We're looking at doing it sometime around 8 p.m. Eastern time, maybe 9. I got to work that out with James, but we're planning on doing our first one this Tuesday night. And it's going to be a little more personal when it comes to, tackle and people want to get on there and just kind of hang out with us while we're going through tackle or going through some new stuff that we got. We're going to be going over some new rods that we got this Tuesday. Really excited to get this series going and getting more involved on our YouTube side when it comes to live. That's why we're doing this show now live on YouTube and on Facebook, just because some people don't have Facebook and they only do it through YouTube. So, but like I say, go ahead and subscribe because we're going to be doing a giveaway. We're going to be picking a random winner this Tuesday. We're almost at 5,100. I really thank everybody. We're so appreciative of everybody hitting the subscribe button on our stuff. We never thought we was going to get this far with YouTube, and our goal was 5,000 by the end of the year. We hit it, right here, which actually our goal last year was 3,000. We surpassed it quicker than we thought, so we said let's throw a new goal in there. So we was 5,000 for the end of the year, and we hit that just a little over a year, and it's still going strong. So I really appreciate everybody for helping out with that. So, but Chris, let's go ahead and get Nate Gloria on. And we're going to talk about his Bass Nation Kayak Series win at Lake Fork. Uh-oh.
That's not good.
Let me message him real quick, Chris, and then we'll see what's going on. He might not. Hopefully he ain't passed out on us. He said he was exhausted. You can go ahead and hang it up if you want to. But we'll get him on. That's the fun part about trying to do this when you get different guests on and all that. But that address did match up, right, Chris?
It did. Yeah.
Okay. He said try it again.
All right. Let me go back in here and find him again.
If not, we'll just
All
call
right,
him.
It says he's on here now. It says he's online.
Okay.
Now. Little green dot beside his name. There we go.
Hey, Nate, you got us, buddy?
I do. How are you guys?
Oh, not too bad, man. Sorry we're a little late calling you.
No, that's all right.
I really appreciate you taking the time to join us tonight. I know you're probably exhausted. You've had a long weekend, with the tournament, and I'm sure that it's probably overwhelming when you win one of them things, the amount of comments and messages you get and trying to get to everything. So I really appreciate you coming on with us tonight, buddy.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Chris, is everything looking good on his end?
Yeah, I've just got to build a scene up.
All right, Chris is just building your scene up right now. But, well, man, let's talk. Let's dig into this tournament. I say this tournament, but also I wanted to let you know we're going to do an in-depth segment. I was trying to get to you for that. We're just going to our in-depth segment is going to be about your techniques that you used for this event.
Sure.
But let's kind of talk a little bit about your tournament. How much practice did you get in on this event?
Yeah, we left Omaha. One of my good buddies from Wyoming, he got into Omaha at about 11 a.m. on Wednesday, and I got that text from him saying that he was about here, and so I was at work, supposed to work till 5, and I got that news, and I was eager to get down to Fork, so I left work right away. We ended up leaving Omaha Wednesday at about 1:30. Made it to Fork that night at about midnight. So we had all day Thursday to pre-fish, and then Friday up until 2 o'clock for the rules there for the tournament. So just about a day and a half pre-fishing.
Nice. That I think that's great when it comes down to it. When you're getting your practice in, I always feel like I don't know how you are. I always feel like if I get more than 2 to 3 days, it's easy to just get spun out. You know what I mean? So I think 1 to 2 days, 3 at the most, is about all you need for these things. You know, I mean, you kind of know which area you want to fish. You know what you got confidence in. So, it just kind of dials you in, and you can just practice on the spot. Because I feel like if you have a week, you're going to fish so many different boat ramps or different places that you can't really dial it in.
It makes it tough. And for us, we hit on the way down there. I mean, we had done our homework, with the maps online, and we had checked out a couple other places, and we were chasing some warmer water. We had, all the guide reports were saying to go north, either to Birch or to the Glades, Running Creek as well. So Running Creek was one that we took a look at. We went up to Birch as well, and I've been on Fork before and have had great success on Little Caney. So my partner asked, and he's like, do you want to go to Little Caney on Friday? I said, I think it's just worth, a shot. Let's just go see what it looks like. That being a little bit further south than some of the other creeks up north, we expected the water temps to be a little bit cooler. And they were, they definitely were. But by the time that, that overnight low was like 61 that night, following a new moon on Saturday, that played a big factor, So for us, we were throwing some frogs pre-fishing on Friday there, and the bass were just kind of coming up and hitting the frog. They weren't really committing to it. And so I think that low overnight being up there in the 60s, followed by that new moon, just kind of really helped things, kind of take off and happen in Little Caney Creek.
So is that was your main deal was the frog?
No, that's not what I caught the fish on. That's actually just kind of what clued me in as to kind of how to narrow down how I wanted to attack them. What I had seen, I mean, everybody was throwing a frog. If you looked left, if you looked right, Fork had incredible pressure. The guide reports, all the information out there was just talking about how this lake was just getting ready to erupt. And so you've got, our tournament with 196 anglers in it. You had another bass boat tournament that I know of was out there. And then obviously all the recreational fishermen who want to get out there and enjoy what Lake Fork has to offer. And, the amount of people that I passed by that were throwing frogs was impressive, but I never saw anybody catch anything on a frog. Myself, I caught one frog fish and had a few blow ups on it, but it just wasn't anything that they were really wanting to commit to. It was almost like they just wanted to kind of get it out of their area type thing. And so that kind of clued me in as to what I ended up throwing tournament day.
Yeah. Now let me ask you this, because I don't know nothing about Omaha, okay? Mm-hmm. And when it comes to coming to fishing and all that, is there anything that you fish that kind of resembles lake fork, or is there? Have you traveled doing a lot of traveling to kind of hone you in on stuff like that? You know, I mean, how do you know to like? You get guys that are really good at smallmouth fishing up north. You know what I mean? They can come down here and they can do deep water fishing and figure it out really good. But sometimes, some of them, not all, struggle when it comes to shallow bites or vice versa. You know, so many different things. But what made you be able to clue into stuff like that from experience and all that?
Yeah, sure. Being in Omaha, like we don't have big lakes, in Nebraska at all, really. And if it is a big lake, it's not a bass fishery. Um, so we don't have big lakes like that, but we've got a lake nearby that's got a lot. A lot of our lakes actually have got a lot of flooded timber. So it kind of resembles fork. We've almost got these mini forks, if you will. Like if you take just one of those creek arms, that's kind of with the size of our lakes, and oftentimes looks a lot like it. As far as vegetation goes, we don't quite get as much vegetation as some of the southern lakes do. But, I would say that, between just kind of fishing all of our, local lakes, we get a lot of pressure on our lakes being so small, right? Especially here locally in Omaha with the greater population of people that reside in Nebraska. So I'm constantly running around trying to find, fish that are kind of unpressured. And so I think just, a mixture between that and traveling to, tournaments from, Hobie events to KBF events and to now, bass events, I think all of those things have contributed to helping kind of narrow down what you should be doing, when it comes to tournament day.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, now, when it comes to fishing down there, what was you looking at in Texas, water temperature wise? Were fish really starting to get up on the beds, or because in Florida they're spawning, or getting close to the end of it. So how was it there in Texas?
Yeah, so up north we had found that the fish were relating to the back side of the weeds between the bank and the weeds. So right then and there it tells you like those fish are up there at least trying to bed. Now I really wanted to kind of attack the bass as to not make myself visible, especially given how much pressure was on this lake this week. I didn't want the bass to see me. I figured if I could see them, they could see me. So I wasn't really on kind of like a sight fishing type thing. I really kind of honed in on where might the bass that haven't come in yet, where might they pull up to, on tournament day. Little Caney Creek, I've done well in the very far back. And I went back there, checked it, and I just didn't see. I saw fish, but I didn't see any good size. Some of the bass that I spooked as I was covering the shallow waters. There wasn't a big wake left behind, if you will. So that kind of turned my focus to say, okay, go back toward the main lake and find the next pit stop. And I was like, if you find the next pit stop, they might be there.
Yeah.
And I checked some points. I caught some fish off of some points, thinking I could, intercept them there. But it was nothing, that would have put you in contention to win a tournament like that. And then, tournament day, I think that some of the bass that, were just kind of waiting out there, right in front of the pockets, they decided to kind of roll in at that moment in time.
And what you're talking about, I really like that because you're breaking down like where they could be, where they're going, and where they could possibly be later. And
some points.
And when it comes to tournament fishing, I mean that's what you got to do. You're constantly, and that's a bad thing about like the Bass Nation stuff. I love their events. I love it. I wish it was 2-day.
Sure.
But I love their stuff. But when you do fish a KBF event and you got your practice in, that is one thing that's tough is because you got to say, okay, well, the next day, this is changing. What should I be looking for? You know what I mean? When you're looking at the weather map. So, like, for what you did there, like, say you're breaking it down, the next steps are. And sometimes you can find those little nuggets. Like, if you find a few fish shallow, but then if that bite gets hammered or people hammer it, you can always pull off and find those deeper fish. So, I think that's key when it comes to practice is not get, always have your A, B, and C spot for sure.
Sure. Yeah. And that's kind of how I approached it. If I went into, a shallow flat and caught one, I didn't cast at another fish. I pretty much did some scouting at that point, as to where might some beds be, where might fish be, relating inside of that vegetation, and so that way I could come back on tournament day, because I'll be honest with you, I had real no plan as far as like, yep, this is the cove that I'm going to go into and fish. I just knew that I wanted to cover water, and I wanted to find a way to do that in a finesse presentation, right?
Yeah.
Because of the pressure, and I needed to do that while keeping my distance, and so yeah, those were super important things to pre-fish and to say, these are areas where I've seen a lot of guys at, and these are areas where I haven't seen a lot of guys at that might show, some bass that are just a little bit less pressured.
Now, when you on your average tournaments and practices and all that, do you take time of like, I'm going to ride around and just look at a bunch of different ramps, and see who's there and how many are there, or you just kind of pick your spot and just go?
No, I do a lot of homework before. Actually, I was just looking at the map of Lake Fork as I was talking to a buddy a little bit ago, and I've probably got 30 red marks, just little drop pins that I've saved on Lake Fork. And those range from either it's a place that I've caught a fish, or it's a public access point. So, that plays, huge benefit to me later on, as well as, say if I come back to that lake, some of my homework is already done, so it's actually, I've been to Fork 4 different times. And so over those 4 different times, I've actually gained quite a bit of a knowledge and familiarity with the lake itself. So that was really helpful, to be honest with you. Granted, I fished Little Caney, which I, had fished really well in 2 years ago. So I was really familiar with it. I think that was a big contributing factor to it as well. Some of those things you just can't overlook,
Yeah. Now let's go into an in-depth segment here. Bob's
Sure.
Up the Creek Outfitters. They sponsor our in-depth segment. So guys that are following along or whatever, you can go check them out on their website. I'm going to say One Objective at bobsupthecreekoutfitters.com. You can buy accessories, you can buy kayaks, and I'm going to tell you right now where the industry's going. If you find a kayak, and you really want one, you better put your money down quick, because they're going to be harder and harder to find this time of the year. So make sure you go check out bobsupthecreekoutfitters.com and check out all he has for selections. He's got a lot of great brands, a lot of popular brands. So if you're in the market, you live in Virginia, he gets a lot of people from out of state. I know I was talking to him the other week, guys from Indiana. So check out what he's got. If you can't find it where you're located, I'm sure Bob's going to have it, or if not, have it come. So make sure you go check him out. But Nate, let's talk about your setup. Let's talk about the in-depth segment of part of your setup and your rod and reel, and why you pick what you do to do that.
Sure. Yeah. I was throwing. There's 2 different presentations that I caught my 5-fish card on, and one of those was using a Texas rig. So I wanted to make sure that I had braid. That was super important to me. With these fish being in that vegetation, they were gonna, if it was a big one, it was gonna take you for a ride, and so you needed some heavy duty line to get them through that. I was also using a El Morris rods, which is a custom rod that Kelly Moe with El Morris makes for me. Just a phenomenal rod. And that rod actually is, I have 2 of those rods, and both of those rods is what I used for both of my presentations. I wanted something that had some backbone to it. Throwing something like a Texas rig, weightless like that, on a larger rod wasn't easy. I'll be honest with you. There was many times that I made an error cast and had to reel it back in and pitch back in again. But like I said, I wanted a little bit more backbone in my rod to kind of horse those fish out of there. Yeah. My reels, I use, most of them are Quantum PT Accurus. I'm really not kind of like a real gearhead, if you will. I like to keep things pretty basic, pretty simple. I grew up fishing religiously a Texas rig worm. So this tournament actually played right into kind of how I grew up fishing. So those 2 reels is what I use there, Quantum PT Accurus, and then some 40-pound braid.
Yeah. And I mean, that's what I like, just keeping it kind of simple. You know what I mean? When it comes to everything. And that's how these tournaments set up, man. It's like, if you fish your strengths, eventually one of these tournaments are going to come to you.
Sure.
And when you go in and fishing stuff that is not like you talking about your Texas rig, you grew up throwing a Texas rig. That's kind of like how me and James and Chris, we all threw Texas rigs and shaky heads, and when a tournament rolls in and it's one of those tournaments, we normally can do pretty well, because that's what you got confidence in. That's what you've perfected through the years. So, but yeah, that's pretty amazing. And there was something else I wanted to ask you, and it just slipped my mind there. But
that's all right.
But no, when it comes to your go-to bait, you was talking about your Texas rig. When it comes to a tournament, is there another go-to bait, like your plan C, that you're gonna have on that's always tied on? What bait would that be?
I would say most likely a jig. I love a jig. Like I said, Nebraska's got a lot of wood, and there is a lot to be said about dragging a jig over a log and feeling it come free off of that log, and then just feeling the thump. It's a presentation that can catch fish in cold water and warm water too. So I've almost always got a jig tied on. Black and blue is pretty common up here in Nebraska. We've got a lot of dirty water. Fork, I know that black blue flake is always a popular color, so that was a determining factor for me as far as the bladed jig that I was throwing, as far as the color of the skirt. So yeah, definitely a jig. Jig is very key for me in my presentations.
And that color there, like you said, it's popular where you're at. It's popular at Fork. I know a lot of lakes here. It's a very popular color. And when it comes to jigs, I used to have all kinds of different colors. You're trying to match a crawl. You see a picture, you're like, man, I got to have all these colors in there. But if you guys listen to Gerald Swindle or a lot of these other pros, if you actually just have a chance and look at what's in their box. When we did, I always tell people, if you really want to learn how simple fishing is and how you can, we as fishermen can really overthink something. So I always tell people, go fish, do a Marshall program in the Bassmaster Series if you can. You learn so much from them guys and how simple things are. You're like, man, he was just doing this. You know what I mean? Like, it's so simple. But when it comes down to jigs, green pumpkin and black and blue. It seems like if that's the only two colors you need. Every once in a while you need something kind of like that watermelon color, but most time it's green pumpkin and it's black and blue. It's like you cannot go wrong. If you don't have those two colors in your box, do you even throw a jig,
Yeah, exactly.
But Chris, you said we got a question?
Yeah, Clay was wanting to know, was they hitting on the fall, or was you having to work it right under the mat, and what size weight?
Yeah, so it was a weightless Texas rig on a 3/0 hook. I was throwing a Zoom speed craw, and it actually, I don't think it, mark my words, it was not a Zoom speed craw. I actually got it out of a $1.99 bin the night before I left for the tournament. But like I said, the guy, I could see that other guys were talking about getting hit on frogs. I had gotten blow up on frogs. Like I said, I wanted to go to more of like a finesse topwater presentation, and that's really all that I could come to mind with. Guys were throwing the buzz frogs. I didn't have any buzz frogs, so I kind of had to improvise, if you will. So I picked up this craw out of my box of plastics, and I was like, well, maybe I'll throw this, and I'll throw it up on the weed mat, and then when it gets to that opening, I'll just buzz it across the top of it. And first time I did that, I saw just a giant wake behind it, and it kind of startled me for a second, to be honest, which is exactly what they wanted. I stopped the bait, and that then allowed that bait to fall right in front of his face, and the bass had just no other opportunity but to eat that bait. So that was my presentation with the craw there in the Texas rig.
Yeah, it's crazy with a weightless crawl. I've never thrown a weightless crawl. When you think weightless, you're thinking trickworm, Cinco. There's so many other baits out there, but I've never really thought about a crawl, especially coming over pads. It's genius, really.
Yeah, the only reason I did that was because it was the only thing that had the two little flanges on the back that would just kind of ripple in the water and just kind of, almost like a teckle frog, right? Yeah. But just much more subtle. It was so light that it looked like almost like, I mean, if I were a bass, I would be like, oh, maybe that's a baby little frog, and it looks like it's having a hard time getting across. And then, oh, look, it just got injured. I'm going to go eat it.
Yeah.
And so I duplicated that on 4 out of my 5 fish. And so that putting that pattern together happened that morning, and almost by pure accident.
Yeah. And I could see that being hard to throw, like you say, on a heavier rod, because
it was tough.
Yeah, I mean, you're not getting much flex in that rod to really zing that thing out there, and throwing a crawl like that, you know.
And like I said, I wanted to keep my distance, right?
Yeah.
And so the amount of backlashes that I pulled out of my reel yesterday was astronomical, man. You know, but I needed to have it. You know, I need to be able to cast as far as I could, as you know, if I could, right?
Yeah.
Just to give me that space. So there was a lot of backlash yesterday.
I can relate to that 100%. Chris, you say we got another question?
Yeah, he's wanting to know EWG or straight shank.
EWG.
Yeah. Now, is there a time, like, I don't know, do you throw flukes, anything like that? Do you throw flukes?
You know, previous times that I've been down at Fork, I have. Back home, we don't really have shad-driven lakes, so that doesn't really play a benefit unless it's, you know, like kind of like a green pumpkin, and then it kind of resembles like a bluegill.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the most part, I don't really throw flukes.
I got you. I was wondering because, you know, that's always a hot topic, is straight shank or EWG, you know? And got people that are listening, I'm curious of what you guys throw too. If you throw a fluke or anything, or weightless anything, do you throw a straight shank or do you throw a EWG? Let us know in the comments there. Chris, let us know what people are saying when they start coming through. But but no, man, that's a great. I just like hearing different people throwing different things. You know, I know people throw jigs and chatterbaits. You know, chatterbaits. If I always say, if you're doing a fishing and kayak tournament and you ain't throwing chatterbait, then you're totally messing up, because it seems like everybody wins or gets any money off a chatterbait, you know, and it's a hard bait to beat. I'm a spinnerbait guy, and then I used to throw chatterbaits a little bit when I was at Bugs Island, but I'm getting back more into wanting to throw them more and more. But let's kind of talk about your bladed jigs and your setup and your trailer. What was big for you?
Yeah. Well, the day before pre-fishing, I did catch a 21 in one of the coves that produced a couple of fish for me, and that came on a bladed jig for Mr. B Lure Company, and it's a half ounce, or it might have been a 3/8 ounce actually, now that I think about it. And then I had that I picked up the night before we left. Shields was all out of white swim bait trailers, and so I was just kind of browsing through the section, and I found Walleye Assassin Halloween color swim bait. It's a 3.5 inch, and it's a black with orange. And so I threw that on as a trailer, and I had caught a 21 the day before. And so my biggest fish of the tournament yesterday came on that bait. I had casted it up along a weed edge line. I hadn't visually seen any type of swirl or any type of activity in that area. It was just kind of a blind cast up in the area, as I knew that fish were kind of relating to that area, and it just stopped my bait. And I honestly thought that I had a log for a little bit, until I saw my line starting to, go to the side, and I was like, oh, that's a fish. And I set the hook on it, and my drag was cinched all the way tight, and it was ripping drag.
Wow.
And there was a boat just about maybe 20 yards away from me, and he goes, oh, you might have snagged something there. And I said, no. I said, I think this is the biggest bass that I've ever caught, and this one might win me the tournament. And it was an awesome fight, man. Those Lake Fork bass are strong fish, and they are mean.
Oh yeah, I love, that's one. We had the chance to go to Florida, to Texas, for the Bassmaster stuff, and then when we went down there and fished the national championship in Louisiana, went and did some pre-fishing on that one lake down there. I can't even think of the name of it now, but
Caddo.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yep.
But I've always wanted to go down to Fork and actually go do some serious bass. Spend a couple of days and do some serious bass fishing down there. It's just a beautiful looking lake, and I see pictures where guys are out catching fish, and I mean, they're healthy looking fish. All of them are. They're just extremely healthy looking.
What's cool too is, being a kayak fisherman, we don't play the slot limit thing, right? And so, the most pressured fish, the most sought after fish in that lake is the unders and the overs, right? So for us as kayak anglers, the amount of 16, 17, 18, 19 inch, class fish those are the ones that are more apt to bite. They're not, being fished with a drop shot every day,
Yeah.
right? The little buggers are the ones who are just munching on that drop shot. And the tournament, the bass boat guys love those. Those are perfect fish for them.
Yeah.
And for us kayak anglers, it's a little bit different. So, I thought that I was just talking with a friend about that, and that was just an interesting conversation that we had about Lake Fork.
Yeah. That's, we got a couple lakes that are like that too, that are slot limit lakes, and
Mm-hmm.
you look at the weigh in, you're like, man, they won with 7 pounds, but that's
Yeah.
all they could bring in. They caught several
Yep.
big fish, but they can't bring them in.
Yep.
And so, like I say, they fish for some of them smaller fish to get a limit, and then to go flip around and try to get that really big one. Hopefully, that's over the slot. So,
Mm-hmm.
but Chris, did you say we had another question?
Oh yeah, mostly people saying straight shank, 2-aught weightless worm, straight shank or offset worm. Only go to EWG when I have really thick plastics.
Yeah.
And Alan says, tell Josh, an old rusty jig you find on the bottom of your boat will win no matter what.
Was that Alan Super?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he knows. Oh man, but yeah. So let's get back to your tournament a little bit and talk about you're having a good day. You're catching fish. Did you watch the score tracker any before it was cut off?
So no, I had glanced at it once, and that was as I submitted my fish. After I caught my 22.5, I thought, well, it might be good enough for big bass. So I didn't have signal in the area that I was fishing in, so I actually had to head back toward the boat ramp to upload my fish. And so when I did that, I was able just to kind of glance at the leaderboard, and I had seen that there was a gentleman, Jeremy Brandes from Iowa, was sitting in second just behind me there with 90 inches. And so that was about the only time that I was ever really able to look at the leaderboard. And then I submitted all my fish and started to head, right back to the spot that I was fishing. So never really got a chance to look at it again.
Now, when you caught your last fish, did you say did you have that feeling like I just won this thing, or was you still nervous? Because how these tournaments are, man.
Dude, I was sweating, man. I'll tell you, because here's a situation, or that something that happened is, it's probably 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm like, well, I think I've really put some pressure on the fish that are in this area here. I need to go find something else, something different that maybe nobody else has fished. And I know that nobody was fishing points. Everybody was running to the backs of the creeks. And so as I was making my way to a point, trying to upgrade another fish, because I didn't think 98 inches would be good enough. Lake Fork, I mean, I could see myself just based off of, my day, that it was going, and things were happening. So it was a matter of somebody else sticking one more good fish, and it would have been a totally different story, So a lot of respect goes out to the top, 30 guys who earned their check, because it was a battle to get up there in the top 30. But Guillermo Gonzalez had actually, he was moving spots as well, and he comes up not too far behind me as I'm pedaling to the point, and I turn around and said, hey, how you doing? And he says, Nate, are you sacking them up? And I said, I've caught some good ones today. I said, how about you? And he goes, yep, I've caught some good ones too. And I said, yeah, I've got 98 inches, but I don't think it's enough. And Guillermo said, nope, I don't think so either. He's like, you're going to have over 100. And Guillermo starts, heading across lake, and he says, but I think it's going to be one in Little Caney. So, and it just goes to show that, Little Caney is an awesome place on Lake Fork. And it was a slugfest out there this weekend. So,
yeah. So going back to the weigh-in, did you have a feeling that you've got to? 'Cause I know they'll call you and like, hey, you need to get back here. 98 inches, you've getting a check. You know what I mean? So, was there, when they pulled everybody up there, was the feeling still there? Like, I could still possibly lose this thing, or was it surprising?
The coolest, to be honest, the coolest thing was as I had shown up to the awards there, I had seen Lance Burris, who in 2018 when I won Lake Fork Tournament of Champions, Lance and I were right there next to each other, and we both walked up to each other and said, "Quite a familiar feeling, isn't it?" So, and I didn't know what either of those two guys had, and so. I honestly didn't think that that 98 was good enough. I thought maybe one of those boys didn't have service and they uploaded later on. So I didn't expect to win it, to be honest with you. I thought I had enough inches to cash a check.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, man. Now, granted, I've never been in a situation in a big event to even come close to winning. But smaller stuff we fished. I know it's just always nerve-wracking, even down to the small stuff. You don't know who's done what. You don't know, when you fish a bass boat tournament, you come in with what you got. If you got 16 pounds, and you can kind of look and see what everybody's got. You know what I mean? And right then you don't have it. But, man, kayak tournaments, it hangs on you.
Till the very last second.
Yeah. You don't know until the very end. And I'm going to tell you what. I don't see how Jody Queen, all these older guys that do this for a living, how they make it without having heart attacks because, it's nerve-wracking.
Yeah. We had, after, as I was waiting to go over to the awards, we stopped into the restaurant there at the marina, and we went inside and I just ordered a soda, and I'm sitting there, and some of the other Nebraska boys are like, "Dude, you are shaking." And I said, "Yeah, I really am." And so I said, I just need to step outside and get some fresh air, because it's a nerve-wracking thing, when you've got some of the best anglers in the country, fishing out of kayaks on Lake Fork, seeing the limits coming on the leaderboard, as I submitted mine, that guys are not far behind. You knew that it was just a matter of one bite that could have changed the game.
That's exactly right. Chris, you say we got another question?
Yeah. How do you study a new body of water if you've never fished before?
Sure. First off, I'm going to think about what stage should the bass be in, right? I'm going to take a look at water temperatures. I'm going to take a look at conditions as far as weather goes. Maybe the past couple of weeks of weather to really figure out, okay, if the bass will respond to this particular weather, how might that have turned around in the last week? And then after that, after getting a general idea as to what the fish should be doing, that's when I'm going to pull open Navionics web app. I'm going to pull up your Google Maps and turn it to satellite, and I'm going to look for those irregularities. I'm going to look for maybe a tube coming out, and maybe there's some fresh water coming out of there. I'm looking for, if I know that the wind's been blowing, this was particularly showing this weekend, the wind had blown for 3 straight days hard out of the south, blowing north. And so both of the places that I had fished and caught fish pre-fishing were very wind protected. I mean, there wasn't any chop on the water, even if it was blowing. And so that was key. And then you're taking a look at your creek beds. You're understanding the layout of the lake. You want to know where the creek channel bends are. Those are high population areas. And then from there, where might they pull up, right? If they're traveling down that highway of the creek bed, where are they going to say, all right, I'm going to pull up right here. I'm going to rest, and then I'm going to get back in that creek channel. I'm going to keep going to my destination. So, there's a lot of homework that goes to it, and sometimes we're wrong, and that's the beauty of it. Map study is tough work because not all the time does it pan out, but when it does, it's pretty sweet.
Exactly right, man. That's a good question, and it's a lot of questions. We get that question a lot when it comes to elites and FLWs and kayak guys. That's a question we get a lot, and it's always a great question because if you really think about it and go and listen to some of our other shows, I know it's hard to pinpoint that exact comment, but it's all is what you said at the beginning, finding out what stage they're at in their cycle for the year, and then trying to pinpoint that. And then you need to know exactly what they try to do. There's, like right now before the spawn, they're feeding up.
Yep.
If you got a shad-oriented lake, or like you were saying perch, or like one of the lakes me and James fish, it's a lot of yellow perch in there. So you're trying to match that what they're feeding on, and a lot of times it's shad and your crawfish. Crawfish starting to come back out of the mud.
And one other thing to note to help answer that question a little bit deeper as well is something that was key for me this weekend was finding the vegetation that was green, right? When I look at that, I'm like, man, that just screamed life, right? You think about all the oxygen that vegetation puts off in the water, and so if I'm a bass and I'm going to lay any eggs and I'm rolling into a shallow bay to whether I'm clearing out the predators, that could eat my eggs, what have you, I'm going to find some green vegetation. I want my eggs to thrive, right? So that's another thing that I looked for. If I didn't see green vegetation, I didn't even go over to it.
Yeah, exactly. And like I say, man, it's a lot to it, and a lot of it's experience on the water. You know what I mean? As you go, you learn this stuff and put it in your memory bank there and grow on it. And like I say, it don't matter the best baits, the best rods, the best scraps, the best kayak, boat, whatever. If you don't have experience on the water, time on the water, it's gonna be tough. Some people, they get it naturally and just have good luck and win and get into this thing and just do great. But all the great ones, all the big names, it's all time on the water. So, Chris, we got any more questions for him before we let him go?
No.
Well, man, Nate, I really appreciate you taking the time, dude. I know that you just got back in. You know what I mean? You've had a long drive, and you were worn to slam out.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you, though, taking the time. Congratulations to you, man, and looking forward to following you through this year and seeing how. One more question. Are you going to fish the rest of the bass stuff, or you just kind of picking and choosing your events this year?
Sure. Yeah, I'm kind of more of a pick and choose. I need to kind of choose what works for my schedule. But one of my next, goals and dreams, as a young kid, I'll be honest, I always dreamed of winning a tournament at Lake Fork, and for that to happen twice is, there's no words to explain. But I want to do it on a river system. I want to be a well-rounded angler in all areas, and that's an area that I need to improve on. And I love La Crosse, Wisconsin. If you guys have not had the opportunity to get out there, it is a bass fisherman's haven. It is a frog fishing haven. There is so many ways that you can fish, and I am eager to unlock that river system, find out how to put together a win out there. So I will be out there for the BASS event for that. I'll be traveling out there again for the Hobie event that they've got out there. So that's my next goal or dream, if you will. Those two are high on my list to attend to.
Well, man, I hope we hopefully run into one another. That's what me and James were talking about fishing this year, is fishing the La Crosse one. So looking forward to that. It's a bucket list fishery too. I've never been there and want to make it up there. So. But, Nate, like I said, man, I really appreciate you taking the time to come on with us, and I wish you good luck the rest of this year, and hope to hopefully have you on again, man. Maybe you'll win another one here, and we'll get you on again.
Cool. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Take care.
Thank you, man. You have a good one.
All right. Bye.
Bye. All right. Well, that was I hated to cut that short. I know it's getting later at night. A lot of people are getting ready to go to bed. Chris, I know you're getting tired. I'm getting tired. It's been a long weekend, man. I mean, it's just been nonstop. I got back home Thursday night, and it's just been nonstop craziness. So, did want to talk a little bit about one more little segment. This is a small segment. I don't know if you guys around here either, or in general, if your kayak shops have talked about it. If they haven't, go talk to them about it. Is the price increases that are going to be taking place through the industry, when it comes to the kayaks, the plastics, or the oils that they need to make the plastics, that's shooting up. I know the plastics are shooting up because of that. Vance from Appomattox River Company, he did a video kind of going over everything. I spoke with Bob up the Creek Outfitters just Friday and Saturday. I was up here both days and was talking with him, and the companies he's dealers for, talking. There's going to be an increase. I know with the we've had to go up on shipping rate once with for our business, and it's looking like we're going to have to do it again, because we're already, like with our business itself, we're already kind of paying out of pocket for some of the shipping on some of these things. Now, we went up once to kind of meet what the shipping was, so we wasn't going in a hole too much, and then they shot it up again. Shipping is starting to go through the roof. We hate it. We hate going up on prices. I know that we're going to be talking some more this week about possibly having to go up on our products because the material that we use, all the materials that we use, from the hardware to everything, is starting to go anywhere between 20 to 50%. And it's crazy. Metal is shooting up. I got we know a guy that does a lot of metal work. Some of that metal is shooting up 50%. That's crazy to me on the price, but that's just what we're in right now. That's just the state of the economy. It's where we're at. So, guys, I see guys on Facebook fussing about, not just our mounts and our products, but other people's products. Why does it cost this much money? It shouldn't cost this much money. There's so much overhead on just that, and I'm not saying we don't have really much overhead, but it does when you have to include your manpower, and when like I say, it's just two of us. But when you got to include your time to build it, your time to package it and ship it, the cost of just the materials to ship now a product is getting kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy to me. And then just the materials, putting it together, this and that, and then we got the suppliers that we are dealers for as well having to start to go up. So guys, I mean, it's getting crazy. It's going to be that time, and things are going to start costing more, and we're going to talk a little bit about that more on Tuesday too, also on our tackle talk. But we're not going to dig deep into that because it's mainly we're just going to keep it tackle. But I encourage you guys, if you haven't, come over, subscribe to us. Like I said, we're going to be doing a giveaway on Tuesday. We're going to pick a winner. Well, let me step back and say we're going to pick a winner. We're either going to pick a winner or we're going to name off a contest of how we're going to. We want to do something different. We've been talking about it. This time, maybe we'll just pick a winner. I don't know, but I want everybody to stay tuned on Tuesday to find out how we're going to do it. We want to do something amazing and something cool to pick a random winner, So, anyways, I hope you can join us. We'll do another post about it when we're going to be doing it live on Tuesday. So just, I'm not exactly sure on the time, maybe between 8 and 9. It just depends on with like James's kids and all that, getting them to bed, and so we can be free and talk. So, but other than that, Chris, I mean, I don't think do we have anything else that we need to add?
No, I don't think so.
I mean, has everybody got any other questions or I don't want to leave nobody's questions hanging there.
No more questions.
How did YouTube go today? Did we have some few people on YouTube today?
Yeah.
Oh, good. I'm glad to see that and get some of them guys in there. But other than that, guys, we're not going to do a show next weekend, but like I say, we do plan on doing a Tuesday night. We're not going to do one next weekend. We're going to be busy. We're doing some revamping of the shop. We're going to bring all the family down for that to help out with it. So, doing some changes with that. Also, in the comments, let us know below. I'll either see it, before the show's over, or on YouTube, or wherever you're at. If you would be interested in seeing how our shop is run and the tour of our shop, we've been thinking about doing a video on it. I don't know if people are really interested in that. So if you're interested in that, let us know. We'll do a little quick video of that. But other than that, guys, we're going to let you guys go. Please hit the subscribe button. Please follow